Hi, it's Frank from Mann Lake, and today we're going to talk about bringing our bees into spring. Now, we did a video in the fall on how to get them ready for winter. Now we've made it through winter, and it's time to start working those bees to get them building so we get a good honey crop this year. We make sure that we've got a good queen in there, that there's no disease that we can see of, and we just look them over for general health. So what we're going to do, number one, we've taken off our mouse guard because the bees are flying at least once a week. We don't have to worry about mice anymore. Now it's time to go in and check things. Now, by the way, through the winter, we came out here occasionally. All we did was pop that lid just to make sure there was still enough feed on for those bees. And that was fine. You know, we didn't have to do that. Now it's warm enough that we can actually start pulling frames without worrying about chilling brood. You don't want to chill your brood early on. They're very sensitive to cold, so make sure you've got a temperate day. I always say you want to be in the high 40s or so before you pull any frames. You don't want to keep them out long. If it's chilly, the warmer it is, the more you can spend looking at those. So my expectation is this bottom box is going to be fairly empty because the bees generally move up through the winter and they should all be in this top box. I'm just going to pop this and take a look to see what the bottom box does look like. Oh, there's already bees in the bottom box, which is a good sign. Not a lot, but they're down there. And this top box actually has some weight to it, which means they still have a lot of food stores up there. That's a good thing too. So we're going to take the lid off and take a look at some of these frames. I've got a internal feeder in here because in the springtime we have that fluctuation in temperatures. A lot of times the bees are still clustering most of the day. We do not want to put a top feeder on in the spring, and we generally don't want to use the jug type feeders, the Boardman feeders or a bucket on top, because when you get that change in temperatures, the pressure changes, it forces that liquid out onto the bees or onto the ground. So I've got that entrance feeder. Now we're going to take a look here. There you can see they had plenty of winter stores, and that's an outer frame, so we're not worrying about starvation. We don't even, with that look right there, we don't have to worry about them starving. However, it doesn't mean that we don't want to feed. Bees don't raise brood off of capped honey in the comb, they raise it off of nectar. So when we take a look in here, we're going to see what our brood pattern looks like if they're raising brood. Another honey frame, obviously, because that's generally where that brood starts. So I don't have any brood on this side. I do have a lot of pollen in this frame. So they're bringing in pollen already. And this side is all honey. So at the moment, I'm concerned that I don't see brood yet. Not terribly concerned, but okay. So now I pulled this frame. You can see there's much less honey on here, a lot of open comb. And looking in there, I can see that there's larvae and I can see eggs. Being I can see that, I am not going to go looking for my queen. If I see eggs or very young larvae, I know she's in here. Why bother this hive any more than I need to? So I'm going to put it back. Move these frames back, put this one back in. And I'm going to close it up because I don't want to chill brood. As I said, I've got a internal frame feeder in there. I'm going to fill that with syrup. 1 part sugar, 1 part water, 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, it doesn't matter. It is sucrose. And that's what, with that pollen that I saw, making sure they have that sucrose, that nectar, they're going to raise a lot of brood. And that's what we want. That's all there is to it. There's not a lot. We want to make sure we have a queen. We want to make sure they're not running out of food. We want to make sure they have room to raise brood. That bottom box was fairly empty, had bees in it, but there wasn't. I could see the frames were empty. So they've got a lot of room to start out raising brood. Now, being it was so full of honey up top, I know I have to keep an eye on this colony because this would be a candidate for swarming. This is where you plan your splits. You look at this hive in the springtime and you know there's going to come a point where they're going to want to swarm. As a beekeeper, you need to be ahead of that. And when you see things start to get congested, that's where you've ordered your queen. This is my first time in this box this spring, taking it apart. I know I'm going to have to split this, so I'm going to order a queen. That's the thing you have to do when you're a good beekeeper. Good beekeepers prevent your bees from swarming by doing this spring inspection and making notes. What does this colony look like? If this colony were very weak and not a lot of bees, to help them out, I might put a pollen patty on here. I'd probably put it on top in the springtime, so I would just put it under here. And again, I'd fill that syrup. As long as I know I've got a queen in there now, a little bit of syrup, a pollen patty, they'll catch up fairly quickly. So as a beekeeper, we want to make notes on every colony we go in. The strength, is there a queen? Are they honey bound, nectar bound? Is there pollen coming in? Then you can make your decisions. Not every hive is the same. So the more you take notes, the more you look at it and realize what's good going on in there, what's not so good going on there, you're going to be more successful by making those decisions early. If you wait and you go in here later on and there's queen cells everywhere, well, that hive is going to swarm on you. You've got now either have the choice of splitting it into multiple colonies. It's too late at that point to do, to really make your good plans. Plan early for a successful bee season. Spring's very important in beekeeping. We got to be in that colony as soon as the bees are flying on a regular basis. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our videos, and we'll have more coming as the season progresses.